Right. Welcome back to Kerbal Space Program Science Mode. Apologies for the slightly delayed start. Had the classic wireless headset working fine until but the minute I start the Streamlabs software, and suddenly it starts disconnecting again. So I'm back onto the old wired headphones and using the webcam microphone. So hopefully the audio levels should be fine, but we'll find out. Last week we successfully saved Jeb from orbit, and we're now in need of some science to unlock some better parts. So I'm thinking we shall try and go for Minmus, because it should be a relatively easier landing than going for the Mun, even if it's more complicated to get there. So without further ado, let us get started. We've got one flight progress. So yeah, it's currently night time. I think I'll go to the VAB. But before I do that, actually, let's go to the Delta V map for a second. So this is a map of how to get places in Kerbal, and today we're going to Minmus. Let's make a note of the Delta V numbers that we need. So the landing, it apparently says you need 180, so you need about another 100, double that to land and take off. 150 to circularize. 930 plus 340. Cool. So those are the numbers I need. So if we go back to the KSC. And wait for it to actually find the game. There we go. Cool. Yes. So the plan is to send 2 Kerbals and some science equipment to land on Minmus and get back to Kerbin. And generally we build the ship backwards. So we start with the P Re-entry module, because that is the one that carries 2 Kerbals. We'll set our Delta V to vacuum and Minmus, because actually we'll leave it at vacuum Kerbin for now, because this is where we're initially building the thing that will we're basically building the thing that will return to Kerbin initially. So before we forget, parachutes. Set them in pressure to 0.3. Stick a couple. Can never have too many parachutes. Let's make sure we're not blocking the hatch. I think one of these two, like the hatch isn't this one or this one, I don't think, so I think we'll be okay. Let's check if there's any blocked hatches here. Cannot transmit science. That's okay. So we haven't blocked a hatch of these, which is good. Again, 0.3, and then we'll add drogue chutes. And at least 0.2. There we go. So we have some chutes which we want to open in different order. We'll move this to the final stage so that we drop the atmospheric re-entry part after we've deployed the chutes, because otherwise, like the previous time when it wasn't entirely sure whether it was going to come back and hit us. Whereas if you do it after the chutes have deployed, then it should fall away. So now we want some payload, because we're going to need the ability to steer, which will require one of these, and some batteries to power it, hopefully long enough that we'll cool. And then if we have some thermal, just in case we want to use aerobraking to get most of the way back from Minmus. Cool. So this is the thing that's coming back from the atmosphere. Now we need to get this thing from orbit of Minmus back to Kerbin, which would take about 930, 150. It's probably about what 1200 delta V, like to do it entirely under rocket power. So if we need a decoupler over here for our next stage, which is the getting back from Minmus to always prefer these in white. And let's see what we can do with a Terrier engine. 1600. That's perfect. 1600 is more than what we'll need in theory. We'll stick our communitron on this bit because we're going to be ejecting this like just before we enter the atmosphere. So this is like the last thing we're going to have. So once we're into the atmosphere, we won't really need the communitron. Now the next thing is, so this is the thing that once we've got into orbit around Minmus, will be getting us home. Now we need to essentially build something that will be able to land us on Minmus and take us off again, because we're going to change this to Minmus. So we have our plan will be to have our thrust to weight ratio on Minmus, because we obviously need enough thrust to weight ratio to slow down fast enough to land and also to be able to take off again. And Minmus has very low gravity, so it shouldn't be too difficult to build something. But first thing we're going to do, because we want to take science with us, and my plan is to stick the science at the bottom here, so that we essentially do stuff on Minmus with the science that we need, and then we take the science. We're taking a scientist, so we'll take the science out, put it in the command thing, and then once we take it off from Minmus, we'll eject the science, basically the science module. So we stick a science junior on here. I think that's the door, but I might be wrong. It's one of these two. It never tells you where the hatch is. I guess you can find out by shoving something on the on what we think the hatch is, and it'll tell us if it's obstructed. Hatch obstructed. Okay, yeah. So that's where the hatch is. So yeah, we kind of want it on. We kind of want it to be accessible down here because payload. Let's stick one of these in and have our other science experiments. Let's rotate this like this. And let's put some sciencey stuff inside. And since we're taking a scientist, we could in theory reset these if we wanted to. Let's pop that in the middle. On one side, this on the other. There we go. So this is our science thing, which will basically jettison once we're done with it. And then we want to build our sort of landing thing around this. So my plan was to do, again, our door is here, so we don't want to obstruct our Kerbin's ability to, because we're going to have to jet back up here because we don't have ladders yet. So our brave Kerbin's going to have to jet back and fly up to here and try and grab on before we take off again. And so we need, it's about probably about at least 500 delta V just to be on the safe side, but the more the better. And we're going to put our landing legs on these, hopefully give us a wide enough base so we don't tip over. But hopefully I'm good enough at landing to avoid that being a problem. Let's do that. Oh gosh, 3,285 meters per second, that is a lot. 19 frost to weight ratio as well. So that'll probably go down a bit once we've added a couple of bits on top of here. Add some more okay, let's see if we can do this. Command control. Just want some more steering ability on this thing. Actually, it might be easier to we can't see it down there, hang on. Let's redo this, hang on a second. Take this and pop it down here just for now, so that we can then do our 6-fold battery placement. Then take this thing and put this on top of here, and hopefully this should give us, yeah, it works. Of course, getting this thing out of the atmosphere is going to be fun, so we need to add some aerodynamics as well. And before we forget, add some struts. Strut it to the main body, and then also strut it to the strut it to the science module underneath as well if we can. If we can, being the operative word. Yeah. Yeah, that works. Yeah, doesn't work. Yeah, I'm not sure I can. Oh, what we can do is, nope, don't right click. Let's strut these to each other, but up here, like this. Shouldn't be too bad, I don't think. Yeah, we'll leave it, I'm sure it'll be fine. Essentially, we've got 3,000 meters per second at the moment of these, which I mean should be more than enough to get us to Minmus and actually land. So cool. Right, the next plan is to basically extend this down and get this thing to Minmus. So we change this. Let's double check our thrust to weight ratio is, yeah, it's 18.13. So we've got way more thrust to weight than we're ever going to need to actually land on Minmus. If anything, we might want to turn these engines down a bit when we're actually landing, because 18 is considerably more than we need. But anyway, let's continue on. So we only need to get this thing. Again, this should have enough to get to Minmus, but I'll try and get it to Minmus with this 3000 delta V remaining. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to stick some decouplers on here. Decoupler on here. Where did that go? What's it doing there? Oh, down here. There we go. And this is going to be the next stage of rocket down, which I'm going to try and make this a. So yeah, we're going to change this now to Kerbin, and still in vacuum, just to give us an idea about thrust to weight ratio on the actual pad. Now let's go for one in the middle. Actually, let's change up the color scheme of this stage. Let's try these with swivels. See what our 1350 meters per second squared meters per second. That's again like we need about 1200 to get to Minmus. So our thrust to weight ratio 1.92. That's pretty good for orbital maneuvers. So let's just quickly strut this up so that it stays relatively in one piece. Yeah, because basically, because we're flying with yeah. So let's see if we can get this thing into orbit now. Because we're flying with this thing, which is just horrendously draggy, it's going to be difficult to do a very efficient, like a particularly efficient gravity turn out of Kerbin's atmosphere. So what I'm going to do now is just lift this up a bit. Let's see if we can do this thing entirely on liquid engines, but we might need to so I'm going to set this now to sea level altitude, just to be on the safest side. Basically, I assume that all these engines will be inefficient throughout the entire flight, and then we'll get more delta V rather than less. Oh yes, we need to also put landing legs on here as well. So let's quickly take these off. Yeah, because we need. Almost forgot landing legs. Although on Minmus, I guess you don't really need them. But I'd rather have them than not. See if we can't lower these down to not have that. They're really fancy, creepy links, so you can go away. Or cursed links, whatever Mark was calling them. Pop these down a bit. Like so hopefully we'll actually land on the legs rather than on the engines, but we could probably get away with landing on the engines anyway. But let's go back to place mode so we can actually set these to retracted. Let's pop these bad boys back on here. Cool, right, so we have all these going at once. Just to simplify staging. Cool, right, so yeah, so this is the thing I want to try and get out of the atmosphere, so this is going to be the fun part. Let's look at engines. Let's stick our slightly more powerful reliance on the outside and have a swivel on the inside for a bit of steering. 932, what's our thrust weight ratio of 1.02? Okay, so that would be okay for like circularizing in orbit. Let's draw this up. Excuse me. So let's have a look and see what our aerodynamic profile is like. Yeah, that's awful. So let's add hopefully make things a bit better for this stage of flight, and hopefully by the time we're out of these engines we should be like fully out of the hopefully like fully out of the atmosphere by the time, so hopefully aerodynamic drag won't be an issue after that point. Let's see, 920 is nowhere near enough to actually get us out of the atmosphere, so do we want a these are like the most powerful liquid engines we have, so we do not yet have access to anything better, so we're going to need to probably use SRBs to boost us to have like our initial thing. So I'm thinking of like maybe sticking an SRB stage underneath this stage, in the hope that it's because I mean, yeah, I've got 250 kilonewtons versus 205 at surface level, so we might need a pretty beefy lower stage, like first stage, to get us. Let's try that. So let's try an SRB first stage. So let's do the coupling. That's a TD18. We don't want that. We want a TD12. See what happens. We've got 5 of these bad boys on the bottom. $432. it's not a lot. 0.92 for a weight ratio, so we need more. We also need struts. Yeah. Come on. Behave yourself. So at the moment this thing will not get off the pad. It won't have enough thrust to actually get off the pad, which is obviously a problem, but we should hopefully be able to a problem that's hopefully solvable with more boosters. We'll have to see. We might have to redesign this a bit, but actually, if we're firing all these at the same time, we don't really need these because they're all going to burn out at the same time. See what we've revived. We're getting there. We're getting there. Looks horrendous, but 875, 1.66. At this point, yeah, we're just about able to accelerate. I mean, 875 plus 920 is not enough to get out of Kerbin's atmosphere, especially with an inefficient. Oh hey donut. How you doing? I'm building what may end up being a pretty horrendous rocket. Don't forget to put nose cones and all these things. The question is, can we get this up to like? Yeah. Not powerful enough. It's also quite heavy, so I have a feeling like the purely solid first stage is probably not going to be the way to go. I mean, we've got way more delta V than we need in this basically this like top lander stage. So at the moment, I'm thinking if we make this the first stage, it might be a bit better. 88 seconds, but although we won't necessarily be doing that whole thing. Yeah, I don't, because we get diminishing returns of every single one of these we add on. What's the burn duration? 42 seconds of burn on this, and then 88. So I think that might be the better way to go. So we get rid of these. And then have this be our, yeah, so we can get, because we won't necessarily be putting these things at full throttle. Right, so that's fine. If you need to get food, get food. You can always watch on YouTube later. I do appreciate that the timing of the stream isn't really the best, but like I'm trying not to interfere with other people's streams, and this is about the best the best time that would work. Yeah, I'm on YouTube under my normal name, so you should find me there. Right, we want solid SRBs, even though I've had bad experience with SRBs in the past, but you know they're. So we have everything launching at the same time. And then we move this stage up here. Yeah, 7.22, 4.55. Structural coupling. Or some more SRBs. Actually, what am I doing? I can. Firstly, I will add some struts. Everything needs struts. Okay, Everspace 2. What's what sort of game is that? I think I've heard of it, but I'm not sure exactly what Oh, you had a rough night last night. Oh dear, that's sorry to hear that. Oh, okay, Space Weekly shoots up. Oh right. Sorry to hear about having a bad night last night. Let's add this to here. Add aerodynamics. Mm. I'll put it 7. Also could be that's like half of our way to orbit. Then this becomes switches to vacuum. Hypothetically, that becomes 1324, which so about 1300, 2600. Still not quite enough. What is that? Yeah. Thanks for hosting. Donut. Right. So if we're on vacuum, we'd end up would be probably about 1,000 delta V into this before we. Yeah. Thanks. We're probably about 1,000 delta V into this before we start our way to Minmus. So yeah, and this is our landing engine. So I'd rather a bit more oomph off the pad. Maybe we can add more boosters. Let's find out. I haven't quite unlocked the Saturn V parts yet, but they do exist, but they're a bit further down in the heavier rocketry part of the tech tree. So just when in doubt, create a horrendous mass of boosters and see if you can get enough delta V out of them. There you go, 1,500. That's like 2,000, and then it's probably better. We're still on vacuum. Yeah, we're in vacuum at the moment. Sorry, we're on 1,300, so it's about 1,700. Yeah, probably. Yeah, you get diminishing returns as you add more boosters. So we're on 2.72 now. So it might actually be enough that we can fire up the liquid, liquid engines afterwards. So what's this now? 2.18, and then we got 1.2. So there you go. By not firing up the initial engines, and because we've got the delta wings at the bottom now, so we have some aerodynamic control. Let's add some more. We have some level of aerodynamic control, so like we don't necessarily need engine power to steer us like lower down in the atmosphere. But at some point we're going to want to do a gravity turn, so yes, let's think. It's 2000. We could probably get most of the way to Minmus. We could. I reckon we could try with this. 2.18. Let's add some struts as well. I'm not sure about the fin in there. The fin in there might get damaged by the detachment of the thing, so we'll have to worry about that later. That's probably structurally sound, right? It might be alright. Let's do our action groups before we forget anything. So the abort. Now we've got to remember we shouldn't be doing abort until after the solid rocket booster stage, because last time we did that things went very wrong. Shut down all engines if we need to abort, like all of the engines. Depending on what stage we're on, we want to shut down any engines we might be using. There's another set of engines, isn't there, somewhere? Yeah, I mean, like if we're onto these, then we're probably like beyond the abort stage by that point. So we then want to decouple this. Cool, that's our abort. This thing's probably gonna be like horrendous to actually fly aerodynamically, and we want to have some these. Okay. Put this thing a bit further to the ground. This is going to be a fun thing to fly. So yeah, I still think we might be a bit light on the on delta V. We're probably going to be like, we should be fine with this. Like 3,000 meters per second is like enough to land, take off, circularize, get there with enough to spare. So we probably end up having more fuel than we actually need for landing on Minmus, but you know, we won't know until we try and get there. Let's give this thing a name. Untitled spacecraft is quite ungainly. Lander 1, because I'm being very, very uncreative. I used all my good names up on the on my career mode save. Right, so if we save this, and we don't really need any other things, let's head back to the KSC. Let's head to morning, just to make it a bit easier. launch pad with a 101, we want Jeb, and we don't want engineer, we want scientist. So Jeb and Bob. Go to launch pad. Right, let's have a look. Double check staging before doing anything else. So staging like that. Yep, all of those go off at the same time. Then we have all of these, and those, and those. Then we drop the science module. Then we get rid of those, and then we have this thing to fly us home. Okay, all right. Turn on SAS. So let's go to full throttle so that when we're going when we separate the boosters, and we're heading for. Let's see if we can get to orbit. Let's see how far we can get. We can always abort and we can always return to Kerbin if we don't think we've got enough to do what we need to do. Okay, Jeb, it's in your hands. So we're gonna go a bit gentle on the gravity turn because yeah, this thing will flip probably quite easily if we're not careful. Try and hold prograde. Try and bring Apoapsis a bit closer to us. So we didn't flip over, which is good. I'm always a bit wary of flipping over on these things. Get our apparatus a bit closer. Say about 35 seconds. You're about to pass apoapsis, which is a bit annoying. There isn't any reverting, so we're just going to see if we can make it into orbit, see how much fuel we have left. Alright, it's not going very well at all. Maybe we could do a better gravity turn. Maybe I'm a bit pessimistic about how much drag that ball is taking on. So I mean, we'll get into orbit, but I'm not sure if we'll have enough. We'll see how we go. Because I mean, we do have a fair bit of leeway, so we can decide when we get there we have enough delta V for landing, etc. Okay. So we're going to lose a bit of we're going to dip back into the atmosphere a bit, but we might be okay. We're going to dip slightly into the atmosphere, which will reduce our apoapsis height, but once we get to apoapsis we can circularize. Assuming we make it through the atmosphere, which I think we will. I don't think we can really do much to avoid going back to the atmosphere at this point. But if we can get to 320 kilometers up, that's a nice place to circularize that. We'll lose some of that as we go through the atmosphere, but hopefully it shouldn't be too bad. And yeah, we are keep an eye on delta V, because the most spectacular launch. But yeah, it's what you can get away with when you're hopefully heading back up now. Once we're out of the atmosphere, we can time walk around and see what our so we're looking like. At the very least, we can get to Minmus, and if we have enough delta V left, I reckon we can try landing. Again, it doesn't take an awful lot of delta V to land on Minmus itself, so hopefully we'll be okay. And again, these things are only meant to get us off the surface. After that point, we've got more than enough in here to get us back. Right. Let's look at this. First of all, try and circularize ourselves. And see how much delta V that'll take. Yeah, 320, 165.3. Where's our friend orbit? Maybe is now. Yeah, it's just getting higher and higher. So let's focus on getting ourselves to circular orbit so that we can then decide what we're doing about getting to Minmus. Let's just keep that. 15-second burn. Set this at 100%. 27 seconds to go. Okay, how 2366. So if we can get to Minmus and circularize with 1000 delta V, I reckon it'll be okay. It's too bad now. I mean, yeah, 1000 should be fine. And I think we should be able to on 1300, but we might. So that's the mun. I don't want the mun. I want Minmus. That's the target. Let's carry there. I want to probably burn around here. Add a maneuver. Add an orbit. Because we don't want to be doing this in let's have a look. It's going to be a bit. Let's do a hypothetical maneuver here. We lower ourselves down so we end up getting an encounter. Okay, closest approach. That's, yeah, that's what, 7,000 kilometers. So we should hopefully be able to get an encounter out of this. Hello, fallen astronaut. Thank you for the follow. I'm sure there's a way of doing this. That's maneuver 1. Normally end up hitting it a bit early. There we go. And then this periapse go to maneuver 2. switch focus to Minmus. What situations like here? There we go. $39.17. So looking like another delta V, 17, 38, minus 1, so what about 50? And then we've got 782, so we should be okay. And then some to circularize, and about 17 kilometers is probably a good thing to try landing from. Yeah, it takes about, what, 150 to circularize at Minmus. So we should still have more than 1,000, hopefully, by the time we should be enough to land and take back off from. Right. Okay, I think we could do this. Well, we can at least get to Minmus orbit, if nothing else. Power, still fine. Can't really see a lot in non-map view, but there you go. She might be a bit more actually. I don't think map view is going to be any more illuminating right now. Okay, so let's see what that's. Okay, we can make some adjustments to our next maneuver. 15 kilometers works. So our burn time is currently 3 seconds. We probably want to make that a bit. Because you get, I guess, the thrust limiters of all these individually, which is great. Fifteen, cool. Sunrise, sun's about to come up. There you go. When we eventually have solar panels, this will be important. Right. So let's go ahead and walk to our next maneuver. Just make sure. Yeah, chat's fine. Hold it. Variance is 16, that's fine. Right. See about circularizing. I'll do 168. Second burn, that's fine. That is Kerbin. That's presumably Minmus somewhere out there. Not sure if we can see it quite yet. Yes. Right. 4 days until our maneuver. go. Let's get ourselves circled right around Minmus. Let's see where we are with the fuel situation. Right. Pointed out maneuver over now, and Minmus is sphere of influence, so hopefully our TBR should be relative to Minmus. We don't overburn this too much because we don't want to land by accident. There we go. There we are, we're now in orbit around Minmus. And we have 1366 meters per second delta V. And I believe now this should be relative to our, yes, we have a 29.4 thrust to weight ratio, which is actually going to make landing quite difficult because Minmus's gravity is so low that like it'll be difficult to not to like to sort of actually slow ourselves, or rather than slowing ourselves down and then not taking off again. So I might try and limit our engine power so we're not quite so hopefully if I reduce this to like say 50% of each of these, it should hopefully reduce to it basically gives it more control on a potential landing. Hopefully is what I'm hoping, because I mean I kind of want a thrust weight ratio of about, I think 5 is supposed to be a good number to aim for. Yeah, see our thrust weight ratio is already essentially halved, so I'll probably aim for about 10 because we want to be able to, like, you know, freak out and sort of abort any attempted landing if we want to. Okay, whilst we're in space though, before I forget, I want to do this because we can hopefully, once the scientist is out and about on Minmus's surface, we'll be able to reset this and then do it again on Minmus's surface. Is the plan. So I think we want to be landing in daylight, and we want to be aiming to land on the flats here. So yeah, I'm just going to make these last engine adjustments. So let's reduce it to 40. On each one. See what that gives us. Well, it'll give us about 12, I reckon. Oh wait, we're going way below 40 there. 40, that's about 11.76. I think that's probably about an alright thrust to weight ratio for landing. I think. I mean, maybe not, because like I'll drop it down a bit more. Go 30 maybe. 8.82. I think that's probably. I think that'll do. So, in terms of landing, I reckon here among the flats is probably a good place to go. So generally, like the landing method I've read up on, I tend to go for is to basically reduce half of your orbital velocity. So about 152, so you want to like about 75 meters per second, like that, and that's a 17-second burn. And we kind of want to like overshoot where we actually want to land. We're going to be landing on the far side of Minmus from base, but because we've got a pilot, we should be fine. Yeah. Okay, let's go for this. This is going to be the fun thing, because if I screw this up, then we might end up having to send a rescue mission. You can see it's rotated, so we should be fine though, because we should end up being over the flats for most of our descent. No, wait, not quite yet. We want to start the burn so that it finishes about the time we hit the about now actually. Okay. I'll do it right, let's go into landing mode. So we switch this to terrain altitude because that's what we want. And then yeah, so the plan is to hopefully cancel out our so let's rotate this so we're actually a bit more obvious about what we're doing. Yeah, so we want to cancel out our horizontal velocity when we get to where we want to actually land, so that we're not moving sideways. We're hopefully only going to be landing downwards. Let's extend our landing legs because we are still quite tall, so we want to ideally be coming down, hopefully about as close to vertically as possible. Let's activate landing. Which isn't showing up, which is useful. Good to know. Well, I'm not planning on doing a suicide burn, so let's push that a bit further up. There we go. See, that's our current landing spot. Flats are usually easier to land in because well, they're flat. So as long as you're coming vertically and without too much horizontal velocity, you should be fine. But again, we'll see. And again, we're quite tall, so any horizontal velocity might not do us any favours. surface velocity rather than orbit velocity. So we should be hopefully coming like pretty much straight down at this point. These are horizontal velocities in like millimeters per second. So hoping to get to about a kilometre above. We want to try and count as much of that as possible in the hope that we don't tip over when we land. I think that's pretty much. Just kind of hope that our horizontal velocity doesn't become much more of a problem than it is now. as our shadow. It's useful reference how high we are. We start getting lateral movement rather than vertical movement. Cool. We are down, and we have not tipped over, which is good. It's a good sign. Oh god, my heart is beating. It always does. Even when I've got quick saves and stuff, my heart's always beating. But we have 983 meters per second, which should be well more than enough to get us back up. Yeah, even when I have quick saves and quick loads, like landing is always a bit of a nail bitey moment. Let's shut these down so that we don't accidentally take off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave Jeb in the ship because Bob is going to be the one going outside because I need him to do the science. But I don't necessarily need, and I don't want to have make it any more difficult to get him back into the get him back in as possible because yeah, look, there aren't any ladders or anything, so I'm going to have to fly him up there with his jetpack, which should be okay, but I guess we'll find out. He'll probably end up knocking it over, knowing me. But we're on the flats, so we might be okay to take off from the flats without too much. Anyway, let's get this chill on the road. So we want the scientist out. Let's turn that off. And we are on the side we're expecting to be on. Cool. Yeah. So the actual. Go down. Let's turn off our RCS. Let's see if we can't interact with these things. Right, so collect data, remove data, restore, conduct material study, collect data, close doors, observe mystery goo, collect data, log temperature, And take data. Log the pressure. And there goes the data. So we've done that. So you should now have a bunch of experiments on review to sort data 5, EVA report, take surface sample. Cool. Right, let's stick our flag down and then try and get him back into his name site. Minmus prime. Plaque text. It's already fallen over. We're here. Yeah, I'll also do it's always useful to label the biome that you've actually visited. Science was done. Cool. Planted a flag. Now let's see if we can get back into the ship. You have to hit the F for grab, which is always a bit awkward. Right. So the plan is just to go, hopefully to go straight up and then forward a bit and hopefully grab onto the Okay, that wasn't as difficult as I was expecting. Let's not forget to take a crew report. Let's just EVA him to grab the data and then store the experiments. Board again. Cool, so we have eight experiments on board, which will do nicely. And then we shall hopefully launch and get back into orbit. Since there's no reason to stick around here. We've got half an hour left of the stream, of the planned stream, so let's reactivate these engines. And we can well, let's sit there for them just straight up because we don't want to we don't need the fine control of landing anymore. Activate engine, thrust limiter to 100. Thrust limiter to 100, that's status active. Shut down, cool. I think we should have 4 out of 4 engines active now. Cool, right, and we want to be aiming for 90 degrees, hopefully. Wrong way, that way. Let's go to 20 kilometers. Actually, let's oh yeah. Did it actually work? Not quite. Oh well. Never mind. Oh yeah. Do not crack on me. There we go. Bye-bye, science. We need you no longer. Right, let's apoapsis in 6 minutes. Let's get up here and circularize as much as we can. Shouldn't take too much. and then we'll worry about getting home. Okay, 24:25. That's good. 5-second burn time. 90 meters per second. We've got 800. So yeah, we should be able to get most of the way home with these engines. There goes our science module. We need you no longer. Okie dokie. As we ascend, let's point ourselves at our maneuver node. Warp up to our maneuver. We don't need to worry too much about overburning this because we're going prograde, so we're only going to be making our periapsis, or like the other side of our orbit, higher. And that science node, that little science module should wherever it is down there, will crash back onto Minmus. There goes all debris. Right, let's have a look at power. Oh, we're still fine for power. I mean, these sort of missions are never usually long enough to actually warrant worrying about running out of batteries unless you don't put batteries on. But it's always like until you get solar panels, until you've unlocked the ability to actually recharge your batteries. Like with either an engine that will do it, because again these engines, you know, great for maneuvering and being quite efficient in vacuum essentially, but they don't generate power when you fire them, so you're not getting your electricity back when you're doing burns. Right, let's worry about getting back to Kerbin. So when we're going back to Kerbin, we want to be burning. So Minmus is orbiting in this direction, and we want to be reducing our orbital velocity when we're escaping Minmus's sphere of influence. So essentially, we want to be burning and increasing this side of our orbit, so that when we leave, we end up traveling slower than Minmus's relative to Kerbin. So our periapsis should be closer in, and ideally we want to try and get a periapsis close to Kerbin's atmosphere, because we should have enough delta V to like slow ourselves down and pick our landing location. I'm not going to worry too much about sort of leaving debris in space, because I'll just go to the thing and terminate it in the tracking station. I don't really care. But if I can get it to crash into Kerbin, then I will. But right, so if we add maneuver here, but let's do it on the next orbit, because obviously it's going to be in. Alright, let's look, see. So we're now escaping. Kerbin periapsis is okay. I think that's probably a bit much. Need to get that quite nice and low. moon encounter we don't want. This is a lot more so I usually do it on here, and it's like it's always a bit you scroll, you can just like over scroll really easily. Come on, 6,000, 60,000, 600,000. Sorry, we want to get our periapsis down to like ideally like less than 100 if we can. Okay, so make that higher. Uses less fuel if we do it this way. 80 kilometers, Kerbin periapsis. That'll work for us. 12-second burn. We're in a very eccentric orbit, but we shall hopefully have more than enough delta V to lower that down. Oh, we can test this by hopefully if we can refocus our efforts on. This is always annoying. Deactivate those, and then there we go. Focus Kerbin. Let's see, so we used 238. We still have 700 left in that. We had a maneuver. How much does it take us to? Reduce our apparatus down to like another rate to circularize here. Ooh. Overshot. Let's just only under about 1,000 meters per second, which is what we're expecting. So we should be fine. Yeah. Okay, let's do this. So let's warp to our maneuver. 12-second burn time. Point ourselves at our maneuver thing. Actually, I think if we overburn a bit. We could dip our periapsis into the atmosphere and then get rid of these. But I'm not sure I want to toy. I'd rather toy with that with the maneuver node rather than trying to do it. We can wait until we're on. We can wait until we're on our return orbit. Kerbin periapsis there. Kerbin periapsis in 4 days. What if we did to add a maneuver like right now? worried about for now. Let's add a maneuver here hypothetically. So 34 to get it, so that we can do 34. So if we burn radial in about 20 kilometers per second, 20 meters per second, sorry, that would reduce our periapsis down to 21 kilometers, which will definitely be a burn up in the atmosphere job. So I think what we'll do is we'll jettison these bad boys, so that they will crash into Kerbin, and then we've got more than enough thrust weight ratio and delta V in this thing to lower our apparatus down and then do our deorbit. That is the plan. So we use this maneuver node and we just, we'll just point radial in 20 meters per second, jettison, no, point radial out, jettison, then 20 meters per second, and we should be fine. Actually, what we can do is we can adjust our periapsis as desired. So periapsis currently? Oh no, this is periapsis relative to Minmus, I think. Not relative to yeah. Sorry, that was confusing me for a second. Let's warp here. And we're just using this as a reference, really. We don't need to do it here. I mean, I reckon if we were to go radial in now, just keep an eye on our periapsis. And just do like, we can get this down to like 30. 30, cool. Let's go radial out. Stage, and let's raise that back up to about 80. I think 80 is a good number. 80, brilliant. So these things should now burn up in Kerbin's atmosphere, in theory. And we can get rid of this maneuver node. We can set up add-on maneuver here to recircularize. Quite speed on as much. Circularize as much as we can. It's difficult to get an entirely circular orbit because eventually you perhaps 78 would be fine. That part is 39, so that's 1 minute 10-second burn. So we let's point to that maneuver node, and let's warp ourselves back to our thing, and then we can sort out our deorbit burn. Again, our electric charge is fine. Seconds. There we go. Maneuver done. We should now be in a relatively circular orbit. A little bit of an inclination there, but there you go. Can't really do much about that. Let's turn back on our landing sites because we want to ideally aim for, well, as close to the Kerbin Space Center as we can, but I want to land on the daylight side basically. So I think actually like doing our deorbit burn around here is probably a good idea. So let's just we should be fine to land on the ground. Maybe we can drop it down to like here. There we go. I reckon we'll doesn't really matter about getting close to the Kerbin Space Center, although we can try. I mean, the planet will rotate by the time we do this, so I think it would be better if we just go for the going over as much water as possible plan, in the hope that we so like here I think probably gives us about a best chance of landing in water as any. We don't need to worry too much about landing too close to the Kerbin Space Center because we're not on career mode, so we don't necessarily get money back for doing that. So it's a 39-second burn. Let's just go and do that. Get ourselves back. Just give us bit random there. Cool. 51. Check these right. Yep. Once we've done this, we shall do our re-entry, hopefully our splashdown, and then we'll hopefully have enough science to unlock some parts. we'll go through and decide what parts to unlock, and then I think we'll call it after that because we're almost up to the sort of 2-hour intended stream length. So yeah. 4 seconds. Yeah. Don't forget the maneuver. Let's go. Just about gonna have enough fuel for to manage this actually. That'll do. Look at that, 23 meters per second of delta V left, so we just about managed it on this. I mean, like we could have done some aero braking to save some fuel on the way back. So let us point ourselves anti-normal because that's what we're facing anyway. Wait until we get down to about. We could probably just let's get rid of that now. Pop ourselves retrograde, and let's just time warp down to re-entry. There we go. This should be relatively straightforward because we're coming in from low Kerbin orbit. We're not trying to like aero brake from Minmus directly, so we shouldn't have any problems here. What's the view like in here? Yeah, so we're definitely probably almost certainly going to be landing in water, which is good. Way zoom out. There's our cool. Notice here the sort of the compression heating stage of re-entry done. We should hopefully end up with we can now stage our the drogue chutes. We'll probably be able to stage our regular parachutes as well, because we're probably going to slow down enough for those. Yeah, there you go. Stage them all, why not? And they should hopefully start popping out soon. Oh look, there's a graphical glitch on the nav ball. First time I've ever seen that. Down we go. It's a shame you do get like there are different biomes on Kerbin, and you can like go and explore them and get science from them, but the science you get is quite low, and there isn't really much of an incentive to go do it, which is a shame because I mean like there's a lot of Kerbin that you could go and explore. I'll have to do that one day. Just like set a like go land a science base somewhere on like Kerbin's pole or something that would just generate science. And try and land things at it. So the advantage of science mode is that you don't need to worry about wasting funds on stuff like that. Hopefully our drogue shoots will. Yeah, try to accelerate us down a fair bit. Let's time walk down to 1,000, where the main chute should open up. There you are, 5.6. Went before. We should easily be able to survive that, and then we should hopefully get a bit. If we do this, that should hopefully fall off. There we go, and we go down to 4 meters per second, which very nice. I imagine we'll be fine landing at that speed, especially in water. Let's go to 4 times. Fizz warp and go down. Let's do. I always do like to the last 100 meters of descent on regular speed. We'll see what we can unlock. And I think that will definitely be it for today. Successful mission to Minmus. Hopefully we can unlock enough stuff to start looking at where we're going next. Possibly moon landings or the ability to do like Apollo style missions where we bring a dedicated lander, rather than having to do bring the entire ship with us to Minmus and back. Nearly home, guys. Yay! Recover our soul. $463 signs. That is what 376 signs earned from the stuff, and we also recover a vessel. I think recover a vessel from surface of Minmus, which is 22 signs, and they get a whole load of stuff. So that is a nice amount of signs. We've also unlocked quite a few things of that. Get that back. Cool. Let's go straight to the. So these are all 90. So we can unlock 4 of these, I think. Yeah, 45. Yeah, 450 you'll take to unlock. Wait. 90 each. 45. Should be able to unlock 5 of them. Right, cool. So let's have a look. See, repair kits are useful. So generally, my priorities at each stage is to unlock firstly the thing that gives you more science. So for any of these that contain science experiments, which this will give us a Clamphotron docking port junior, which is useful. Let's actually go have a look. So we've got heavy rocketry, which will give us those are quite good. bigger engines, which will be useful for getting larger payloads into orbit. So we'll hopefully be able to have fewer issues getting things to orbit. Propulsion systems gives us some like these tank options will be useful for landers. Fuel systems gives us some of the larger fuel parts. We also get the external fuel duct. Advanced construction gives us that's the payload fairing, which is something we'll want. Yeah, it's basically I think you get your first set of robotic parts. Yes, the engine plates are good. These are all good parts. Aerodynamics. Is there anything else in here we need at the moment? Again, I don't really prioritize aerodynamics because I haven't really done space planes that much. So I mean, I want to do them at some point, but landing will be useful because we'll get the launch escape system. That will be So we definitely want to get a landing because we get the better landing leg as well. Advanced flight control gives us. Oh yes, cool. We get the Gemini style command pod. We get the lander can. All of these. Space exploration gives us the first ladder bits, the hitchhiker storage module, which we don't really use yet, but when we start launching space stations, that'll be useful. We can we're about to start sending rovers and stuff. Miniaturization gives us a docking port, which will be useful for dedicated landers. And then electrics will give us our first solar panels. We get the we get the first. This is the first like useful probe core because it doesn't give you. It gives you basic SAS control. And we get our first photovoltaic panels, which will mean we don't have to worry so much about running out of power when we're using engines that have alternators. So we can unlock 5 of these things, and I reckon we'll want to go to the moon. So I'm thinking probably miniaturization. None of these are. That is a deployable science module. That we can use that to get to get more science as well. So, yeah. So I reckon we want at a minimum. That's also a free man capsule, which is useful. Yeah. Okay, let's go for. We'll do heavy rocketry. Fuel systems, which will give us some fuel tanks we can use with the heavier rocketry. Advanced construction will give us fairings, which is useful. And we have enough for 2 more. I'd probably say landing and advanced flight control, and then we can worry about electrics later. Yeah. Advanced flight control. Yeah, that'll give us a lander can. And we don't really need electrics at the moment. Let's take landing and advanced flight control. So, actually, could we go without landing for a little bit? Maybe. I mean, it's a slightly better landing strut, but we could probably get by with what because I mean, we don't need the bigger parachute because we're not going to Duna yet or anywhere with an atmosphere. So, space exploration. So I think like miniaturization we'll definitely need because we'll want to be able to we want to be able to dock with things and have landers and stuff. So we'll take that. And it's a question of do we want electrics, which gives us again I think we could probably go without electrics for now. Don't necessarily need space exploration yet. We've got miniaturization and advanced flight control, which will give us the lander can, these extra command modules, and we'll also start getting RCS thrusters, which will be useful for docking, etc. So let's take that, and we're down to 13. Cool. So we have a bunch more parts to work with now. and eventually we'll get propulsion systems, which will be helpful for landers, but we can kind of do without. We can get there a lot later. Okay, well, I think that's probably a good place to leave it. So I shall survey the game. Successful, I think. Successful mission to Minmus, and let's double check to make sure no one else has popped on the stream. Don't think anyone has. No. I guess we'll just end the stream then. There's no, I don't think there's anyone I know to raid, so cool. Let's quit the menu. Right. So yeah, that has been a successful session. So next week I won't be able to do Sunday, so we'll be doing it on 5 PM on Saturday as a plan. But yeah, aside from that, I hope people who have been watching have enjoyed, or if you're watching on YouTube or whatever, hope you've enjoyed it. And yeah, until next time, cheerio.